In creating CALANTHEK, the planet that Val would be trapped on was very important to me to make sure that it looked and felt very real, as well as otherworldly. So building worlds from scan mountains and megascans, which is how this was created, is just part of the process. To me, the most important part of bringing something like this to life is lighting. Lighting can make or break a scene. And one of the coolest things in Unreal Engine 5 is Lumen and Nanite. Both of these gave me the ability to create this incredible landscape in no time at all. So part of my process when creating something like this for CALANTHEK is looking at reference, either real-world photography or I study films. I like the way that they shot and lit. Then once I'm comfortable and I know the direction I want to go, I can start building my world and lighting it. Lumen was amazing in a scene like this. For this whole shot, especially wide shots, I typically use just one light. When I get in close, I'll use other lights, but this particular one, there is one light, and it's using Lumen, which is basically, what Lumen is doing is creating real-time global illumination, which is the main reason I wanted to use Unreal Engine 5 so I could actually light a scene like this. And it's just freaking amazing. So what is the light really doing? It's bouncing rays everywhere, like real world light does. You know, once you have like a light bouncing off of an object that's really bright, it's going to bounce back. That's what it's doing here. So you can see as I dim it down what the effects are really doing from that one light. The scene was just lit with one light, like I said, but there was also a skylight, which is sometimes used as like an HDR map, which helps kind of fill some of the elements and color and is used for reflections as well. Now, when it came to Val, this applies the same way as the scenes. But in some cases, like you would in a real set, a real film set, is that you'd actually add some other lights to help kind of control the light where it's coming from on the subject, as well as make it feel a little bit more dramatic. And it was really the close-ups that I felt like I could really push the other lights and help kind of the bounce where I needed it, get the rim light on her face correctly. I tried to avoid any direct light onto her face from the camera's point of view. This tends to flatten the features, and it's not the desired look I was going for. But by making sure that the lights are off to the side or from above or somewhere that's not directly from the camera point of view, it helps give the depth and makes it a more compelling image. Now, lighting inside the cave was a lot of fun. The flashlight was a great subject to play around with lighting and how it bounced off of her, off the walls. And a lot of this was done with Lumen. As you can see, it kind of filters off there. Now, and how it bounces off the walls as she kind of walks off. Now, there's some other lights in this scene that help kind of enhance that. So one is that I wanted some more bounce light on her and be able to control it. So I actually added some lights that were parented to the gun, and that could be controlled, and I could change how much light was on it. Now, this is something that, you know, obviously you want to do so you have a lot more control. You can't just rely on just Lumen bouncing light everywhere like this. It can get blown out, create artifacts. But also what was great about having some extra lights in there was I could also adjust how much bounce I wanted on the walls. And it was the same way. I would add some lights to the gun that would be bouncing off onto the walls to help give the illusion that the flashlight is creating a glow inside this cave. Now, there were some other lights in this area too, just to kind of like emphasize like areas of focus. When you're dealing with a really dark room like this, adding extra lights like on the floor so I can see her legs were really important. Elements like this not only creates a focal point for the character so you can see the character, its silhouette, but it also just creates a really compelling image. And finally, lighting the cockpit was a blast. This is where I could actually play around with the various colors of lights as well as like source them in certain ways and control exactly their fall off where I wanted them to get the exact look I wanted for reflections on her face, her visor. And this was just, a series of different lights throughout. These here spotlights for these lights on the walls. There was other lights just for our characters and how the light would fall off in areas I didn't want to really or care about showing. When lighting, you always want to focus on a subject too, especially in a confined and noisy area like this. You don't want this to be lit up completely. So by putting lights exactly where you want them to bring your character out and affect the realism was really the goal here. And this light here was a simple one just for the projection of who she was talking to, and this is a rec light with the barn doors, so I could just have them almost like barely show her eyes. And then there's various lights around the cockpit. It was a lot of fun. This was probably the most fun I had, was lighting the cockpit, and I think it really shows off the metahuman and the details that's actually on her face. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll actually have a little bit more detailed making of CALANTHEK. I'll be creating a tutorial on the entire film, how this was made from the beginning to end, with the Nomen School of Visual Effects. This will be coming out next year, and I hope you enjoy these, and please watch the film when you get a chance if you haven't seen it.